to Spy School. Ever wondered what it's like to work for the intelligence services?
From surveillance to sabotage, this is your gateway into the murky world of espionage, how spies are recruited and how they are trained.
And I'm here to ensure that all information is reliable. My name's David Shaler. I used to work for British intelligence. Coming up, we investigate the recruitment of agents and send out our two rookies to get people to spy for them. Richard Tomlinson shares more of his exploits working for British intelligence, and we look at the deadly work of top KGB assassin Nikolai Koklov.
Recruiting spies can best be expressed by the acronym MICE: money, ideology, compromise, ego. Their motivation differs, but the end remains the same: gaining information.
I'm going to send them out and about to try and recruit their own agent in London. They'll have to be persuasive, manipulative and charming. But above all, they should try to assess the agent's motivation and exploit it.
We've come here to the West End of London to try and target and recruit a member of the public who may be able to provide us with useful information.
Both Lorna and Julian have targeted foreign students at language schools as likely recruits. They might be with a good chance. It's thought the Chinese learnt how to make the nuclear bomb through students on work placement programs in the States.
Hello, are you interested in learning English at all? No? Oh, okay, fair enough. How embarrassing. She was American.
Oh, hello, what is?
Learning English school.
All right. You have the lessons too?
Well, I don't go lessons.
You know?
I got English skill already, so I don't need at the moment.
So you work for the school?
I work for the school.
And where are you from?
Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What did you do before in Japan?
Before I finished my high school, I came to England and I studied English.
It's doubtful whether Julian's Japanese contact has access to any sensitive information.
Okay, that's interesting. I work for the British government.
Really?
Yeah. Would you be interested in working for us possibly and giving us the names of people who work for your school? Do you think that would be possible?
Well, I just started work here, so I don't know anything about. This is my fourth day.
Oh. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. Take care.
Meanwhile, Lorna has attached herself to a Hungarian prospect.
I need better work, I need much...
Yeah. Well, the organisation that I work for, we would be able to help you improve your language skills. Would you be interested in being paid to learn English and do a little bit of work on the side for my organisation? It's for the Ministry of Defence that I work.
I have very quiet life.
Quiet life.
We had before very... now?
Right, now it's quiet. Not convinced, are you? No.
Well, they're not doing too well so far. However, it takes a seasoned MI5 officer more than 5 minutes to recruit an agent. Let's see if they do any better later in the show.
Now, Spy Hard, our guide to the most deadly moves in martial arts, used by secret agencies around the world. Here, Gavin Mulholland demonstrates the way of taking out an armed attacker.
My name is Gavin Mulholland. I've been involved in the martial arts for 34 years. And I hold black belts in 4 different combat systems.
Okay, in the next move we're going to be held at gunpoint. I need to quickly reverse the gun, reverse the situation. We're going to use classic Krav Maga Israeli Defense Force technique to do so.
My main style is Goju-Ryu Karate. It's particularly suitable for covert work because techniques are brutal, they're effective, they're not flowery techniques that are developed out of sport. Goju remains a martial art and is not a sport. All these techniques are extremely dangerous. Don't try any of this at home.
Coming up later in the show, we'll find out the best places to hide your secret documents and meeting former spy Alan Judd to quiz him about the early days at MI5.
Now on Spy School, renegade MI6 officer Richard Tomlinson, who once infiltrated a criminal group seeking to export chemical weapons to Iran, reveals how he was first recruited by an MI6 talent spotter while at Cambridge.
I never really intended to become a spy. It was one of those accidents of history, I suppose. I was an undergraduate at Cambridge University, and I was walking back to my rooms, and one of the dons there, who I now know to have been what's called a talent spotter at university, sort of called me into his room and asked me in rather mysterious terms if I wanted to do something a little bit different when I graduated, something in the Foreign Service, without being any more specific than that. So I went down for my first interview down at Carlton Gardens, met Mr. Halliday, who was an MI6 officer, I later learned, and I got invited down for another interview about 2 months later, again by Mr. Halliday. But this time when I went, it was suddenly a completely different Mr. Halliday, same name but different person. It was a bit mystifying at first, but I realised later, of course, this was an alias. I had to go through the normal civil service exam procedure, which is a long and lengthy set of exams. I had to sign the Official Secrets Act, and saying that you weren't allowed to talk about this, going through the exams, or whether you were joining MI6, etc. There was still one final hurdle to go, and that's what's called the positive vetting procedure. And to do that, they check into all your background. They go and interview everyone who's ever known you virtually in your whole life, schoolmasters, teachers at university, all your old friends. They go and interview them all and ask them all sorts of questions about your personality, on your background, whether you ever took drugs or were remembered the CND or any of those sort of things, which would disqualify you from joining MI6. And I got through all of that, and finally, it was a good year after the first interview, I got a letter saying that I'd been accepted and I should report for the first day of training on the 1st of September 1991.
Walk-in. A walk-in is someone who voluntarily offers to spy. They literally walk into an embassy or intelligence agency without any prior contact. The term was especially applied to Americans who walked into Soviet embassies and offered secrets for sale.
Time now to rejoin Julian and Lorna out and about, where they're trying to recruit an agent to provide them with vital intelligence. They then have to arrange a debrief with their contact at a later date. It's up to them what methods of persuasion they use. After failing to recruit anyone at a language school, Julian has moved on to a London university in search of domestic intelligence.
Who's we?
The Stop the War Group.
Stop the
War Group.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
What exactly is the...
Well, they've got an EU summit there, and there's a big protest.
So what's your role in all this?
That's myself.
Yeah.
When I considered the issues, and I thought, well, it was in a sense a knee-jerk reaction.
And you study here as well, do you?
Yeah. What about yourself?
Well, I work for the civil service, actually. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Lorna perseveres in her bid to recruit a foreign source with access to valuable information.
Where are you from? Are you from Korea? All right. What do you do?
We do development.
What do you both study together, do you? Development.
And what do you do?
I work for the civil service.
Secret
So,
or public?
That's up to you to decide. I'm not saying anything.
An error from Lorna she should have denied.
I mean, so you're actually going over to this meeting in Brussels. Yeah. That's very interesting, all this to me. So, do you think you'd be interested possibly in filing a report for me on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, certainly we could reward you financially for any services you can provide to us.
Julian does well to appeal to financial greed.
Who's your main tutor? Do you have a main tutor?
Mine is Julio.
Where is he from?
He's from Colombia.
Ah, interesting. I'd be interested to find out a bit more about him, to be honest with you. I am prepared to offer you a certain amount of money. The institution that I work for, let's just say, has plenty of it. And to get people onto the right side, we don't mind helping people along financially. Would you be able to get hold of some research papers for me by this man?
Well, that's all. I mean, there's nothing secret what he does. It's all very public.
Sadly, nothing confidential is on offer.
I'd be interested to find out more about his Colombian connections. I mean, would you be able to ask him a little bit about his life over there, maybe next time you meet up with him, or...?
Yeah, but he's based here.
Yes, but he's got contacts over there.
Yeah.
I mean, would you like to meet up later on this afternoon for a chat? I'll buy you a coffee.
Sure, I'll buy you the coffee.
Can Julian clinch the deal?
Possibly I could take your name and number,
That'd be nice.
and then obviously we could, I could give you a call when you're back.
Yeah. What's your name?
My name's Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Taylor. I mean, we're always looking to recruit intelligent new people. Obviously, we're sort of related to MI5, MI6.
A major error from Julian. You must never reveal you're working for a secret service.
Obviously, if you're here and if you're joining in something worthwhile like that, very possibly you're a sort of person we'd be interested in.
Cool.
Yeah?
All right.
So you'd be interested in possibly looking into that and maybe other things in the future.
Cool.
Coming up in part 2, we get our hands on some guns and we find out why KGB assassin Nikolai Koklov suddenly found himself top of the hit list.
Plenty more spycraft still to come on Spy School. We show you the best places to conceal your belongings when travelling abroad, and I'll be talking to former agent Alan Judd about Sir Mansfield Cumming, the eccentric who was the first head of the British Secret Service.
Now we go back to Spy School past as we join the syllabus for the SOE. The Special Operations Executive was the name given to those British secret agents who were trained to operate covertly in Nazi-occupied Europe. Here we get to grips with some of the weapons of the day.
On your left, on the far left, we have a dual-purpose Bren gun. Next to that, we have another Bren gun. Next to that, we have the MG42, a German weapon. Down on my right here, we have the number 4 Lee Enfield rifle and the short magazine Lee Enfield rifle. Lastly, on the right, we have a Mark 5 Sten gun and a Mark 2 Sten gun. We're going to start off this morning with the Sten gun. What I'm going to teach you now is normal safety precautions. This is what you do every time you pick up the weapon. The first thing we do is we remove the magazine by depressing the magazine release catch and removing the magazine. Like this, watch. Next, we grab hold of the cocking handle, pull the working parts to the rear and hold them in the holding opening slot, like this, watch. The next stage is to release the working parts from the locking mechanism and squeeze the trigger and release the working parts forward, like this, watch. Do that now. Okay, that is the normal safety precautions.
We're talking about concealing sensitive material, especially one on the move or abroad. Remember, this is strictly need to know. When you're travelling abroad with sensitive material, you're particularly vulnerable to compromise. You have to cross borders, you may be checked by customs, and of course there may be a hostile local police force. You're also at risk at hotels. Whatever you do, don't use a hotel safe to deposit sensitive material. The head of security at bigger hotels often have a relationship with the local police or security service.
Hotel staff will know most of the hiding places in any hotel room. But if you have a flat object to hide, don't use under the mattress, don't put it under your clothes in the drawer, instead attach it underneath.
Gideon's Bibles are found in hotel rooms across the world. They're excellent hiding places, but not the one that you find in the hotel room. What you do is you hollow out a Bible before you arrive, like this one. You then replace it with the one that's already in the hotel room, and your item is quite cleverly concealed in there. No cleaner will ever look at it. If you're going to hide things in a bathroom, don't put them in the toilet cistern. That's the most obvious place that anyone would look. Instead, it's much better to use a panel under a sink or under the bath. Microchips can also be hid in electronic equipment like a travel alarm clock. But whatever you do, don't use toothpaste to hide things. The police and intelligence services always look there.
The Emily. The Emily is the name used for an American citizen recruited by the KGB. The first Emily was an Assistant Secretary of State in the 1950s. She was recruited by a KGB agent posing as an insurance salesman and leaked state secrets for 14 years. Time now for the assassination files. Nikolai Koklov was one of the most efficient killers employed by the Soviet Union. He then underwent a religious experience and wanted out of the game. But would the KGB let him? Nikolai Koklov was a member of the elite hit squad Smersh. In 1953, he was assigned to murder Georgy Okolovich, leader of a Soviet émigré group in West Germany. But Kokolov, a terrorist during World War II, had undergone a remarkable transformation. After marrying a Christian, he turned his back on killing, found religion, and used his latest mission as an opportunity to defect. He surrendered all his weapons to the German police, including the gold cigarette case holding fake cigarettes which fired poison bullets that was to have killed Okolovich. The plan was for his wife and child to join him later in the West. Foolishly, Kokolov began to speak publicly and at length about the activities of the KGB. Stalin wanted the assassin assassinated. On September the 15th, 1957, Kokolov attended a convention in Frankfurt. Having enjoyed a traditional bratwurst dinner, he fell desperately ill. His body swelled, his skin became discoloured, and his hair fell out. Kokolov had been poisoned with thallium, a toxic metal, which had been permeated with atomic radiation and ingested with his food. A medical examination showed his white blood cells were being destroyed, his bones were decaying, his blood turning to plasma, and his saliva glands withering. Miraculously, doctors managed to save his life by giving him massive blood transfusions and a variety of antitoxins. So the former assassin survived, but his wife and young baby were incarcerated into the infamous Russian Gulag camps and never seen again.
MI5 was set up in 1909 by the eccentric and enigmatic Sir Mansfield Cummings. At his death, his diaries were seized by the government, but recently, Alan Judd has been granted access to them to write Cummings' biography. I met up with him to find out more about the bizarre Sir Mansfield and the beginnings of the British Secret Services. Alan, you wrote The Quest for C, the biography of Sir Mansfield Cumming. Who was Sir Mansfield?
Well, he was a 50-year-old retired naval commander when he was approached to run the Secret Service in 1909. We've no idea why it was coming, because he was semi-retired. He was running boom defence down in Southampton. He lived on a houseboat, and this letter was rowed out to him on his houseboat one day. And he didn't want to leave boom defence, he much preferred that. But he was asked to come and start the Secret Service and spy on Germany.
What sort of operations did they undertake, and what sort of people were involved?
What he was trying to do was to find people who could go to German dockyards and report on the German naval building programme. That was the main thing. Right. And also their armament programme in general, and provide early warning of war.
And what sort of lengths would he go to find out information about the enemy?
Well, he'd go to almost sort of any lengths that were legal and practicable. And he went on the continent quite a lot. He used to wear a monocle, he'd take his sword stick, he'd wear disguises, he'd try and get alongside people who had access to information, because that is the main thing in espionage.
So would you say he set up the model which other secret services have followed?
Yes, he was the first C. C stands for Cumming, actually not for chief. And his successors to this day, the heads of MI6, have all been referred to in official correspondence and still are as C. And they all use green ink, just as Cumming used green ink.
He's regarded as quite an eccentric chap. What are some of his most strange habits?
He had a wooden leg, and not everyone knew he had a wooden leg. And sometimes in meetings in Whitehall, where things weren't going very well, he had his compass dividers, apparently. And occasionally, if people didn't know he had a wooden leg, he'd say, "I will not put up with this!" And he'd stick these things in his thigh, you see, and leave it quivering there whilst people looked on in horror in the meetings. And usually he got his way.
It's said that you were in the Secret Services yourself. You can't admit that, obviously.
Obviously, if I had been, I would have to say no. And if I hadn't been, I would say no. So there's almost no point in asking.
Apparently there's a reference in the diary to using certain liquid substances as invisible ink.
Yes, you're thinking of semen, aren't you? Human
Daily.
semen, yes. Well, yes, that does appear. It's not actually in Cummings' diary itself, but it's in the memoir of a contemporary, of someone who worked for him. Cummings said it should be sent off to a scientific research establishment they used to have a lot to do with, and that he suggested the female equivalent should be tested as well.
Inexhaustible supply,
yeah,
though?
Quite, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you.
The relationship between operative and informant is a very special one. You are ultimately aiming to become the best friend they have. You don't want them to talk about their role with anyone other than you.
In his book, The Big Breach, Richard Tomlinson reveals an MI6 training exercise which tests an agent's powers of persuasion and ability to recruit.
Julian's perfect passenger will be travelling on the 0700 hours ferry from Dover to Calais. Julian's mission is to find him, engage him in conversation, and assess his suitability as a potential agent.
I'm here on the glorious Dover to Calais ferry, and I've been told that there's a man on board that the security services want to recruit. Before they make their first move, though, they want me to track him down, talk to him, find out if he's suitable, and get him to agree to meet me for a drink when we're back in London. The reason they want to speak to him is because he's an expert in computer security.
All Julian knows is that the target is English and reads the Times newspaper.
I've also got a secret camera in this tie, so I can record our conversation and assess the information I get from him later on back at HQ.
Okay, so I spotted someone over there who might fit the description of the guy. He has got the Times with him as well, so I'm just going to go over and talk to him a little bit and find out if he's the right guy. Where are you going to Calais for?
I'm actually going to Amsterdam.
Are you? Yeah. What do you do back home?
I work in London, actually, in an
Oh, do you?
investment bank.
Ah, right, okay. Okay, no joy yet. That guy was an investment banker, so he's obviously not the guy we're looking for. I know that the one we're after is English. He was American, and he was on his way to Amsterdam, so it's definitely not him. We just have to keep on looking. That'd be our target over there. There's a man with slightly curly hair reading a copy of the Times.
Julian has correctly identified the potential source. He now has to persuade him to meet again at a later date and find out his motivations.
What a horrible crossing.
So it would have been last week, I reckon.
What are you going over for? Business? Pleasure?
I go see friends in Paris.
Are you?
Got a little bit of time off.
What do you do? What's your job?
Just graduated in computing, actually.
Have you?
So, yeah, I've been doing programming for a few months.
Oh, wow. Where'd you graduate from?
Imperial. Just did a master's there last year.
Yeah, well, we're looking for computer programmers at the moment, actually, and language specialists.
Wondering why it's so interesting.
Yeah, well, it's just...
The plant has been briefed to agree, only if he's convinced by Julian's approach.
As well. So, what was your name? Sorry.
Well,
Jonathan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. When you go back, you go back to London. You live there, do you?
Yeah.
Possibly you could come and see us. If you'd be interested.
Yeah.
Have a little chat. See if there's some way we could work together.
Yeah. Open to any suggestions.
You'd be interested in that?
Yeah.
All right. What's your? Let me take your number and.
555 987 824.
Excellent. Oh, we're pulling in.
Enjoy your business meeting.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
good
you
luck
too,
in
mate.
Paris.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a call and hopefully we can hook up in London. Nice to meet you, Will. Take care.